Let's talk more about this with Ed Lazear. He's professor at Stanford University. He was chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors under President George W. Bush. Ed, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, a lot of changes that we're learning about over the past 24 hours. This departure of Rahm Emanuel, what kind of position does this put the White House in?
Well, you always hate to lose good people, and certainly losing someone who's been as influential as Rahm Emanuel, coupled with the departure of Larry Summers, who's obviously a top person, both in terms of his economic prowess and also in terms of his influence on the administration, is problematic. I mean, you don't like to lose your generals in the middle of a war, and unless they think the war is over, this is a significant problem.
So how does the president find his next general? I mean, especially when you think of Rahm Emanuel as someone who is not just an advisor, but is friends with the president.
Well, that's right, and it's not so much that the personal relationship with the president, although I think that is important, but those things develop pretty quickly because the chief of staff and the president work so closely together. What is very important is that the chief of staff have a good relationship with all the other senior advisors. I know in our team, Andy Card had been there for about 5 years or so, and then Josh Bolton took over, and that was a big change, but it was one that was relatively easy to implement because Josh had so much capital with the rest of the staff. Everybody liked him very much, respected him tremendously. He had been with us for a long time, and I think that President Obama would be well served by doing something similar, bringing in a person who has the clout with the rest of the staff and is able to work with them so that he doesn't have to go through a difficult transition. Obviously, his presidency is not in the best shape right now, and this would not be a time to disrupt it.
Professor Lazear, usually when we see these types of shakeups, when they come in a series like this, it's usually after a president wins a second term, and then the chief of staff usually will go around the cabinet room and ask some people, time to hand in your resignation, we want to bring in new blood. Is this unusual for all of these departures to happen basically midstream, about 20, 21 months into an administration?
Well, it does happen, but usually when it happens, it does suggest that they need to move in a new direction. And, you know, if you think beyond the personalities and move to the substance of what's happened, I think what is clear is that the policies that they have put in place and the promises that they made coming into office and at the early part of their administration have not played out.
Well,
so,
Professor, might I ask you, I hate to interrupt you, but might I ask you, as our Hans Nichols was saying, will some view this as a tacit understanding that the administration's policies have failed, or will some view this as an admission that, okay, we've tried this, it's not working this way, let's go to plan B?
Well, you know, I mean, I basically take both Larry and Rahm Emanuel at their word. I think that they are leaving primarily for personal reasons. So I don't think it's quite an admission of failure. I think the way I would view it is that the administration has actually gotten a lot done. They had financial regulation. They had major stimulus spending. They got passed a health care bill. So one wouldn't argue that they haven't gotten things done. The question is whether the things they've gotten done have actually been successful. And unfortunately, I think most of those things, at least as the American people are saying right now, have not been successful in the voters' minds and also in the minds of the American worker. When you're sitting there with 9.5% unemployment almost 2 years after you've come into office, that's not a great track record. So I think that's the problem that they face, and no matter what Larry or Rahm say about their departure, you know, even if it's honest, and I believe that it is, you know, the point is that the evidence is there for what's happened, and unfortunately the evidence is not very good.
All right, Professor Edward Lazear, former Council of Economic Advisors chairman, now out at Stanford University in California. Professor, thanks so much. We appreciate it.